Hello, welcome to today's episode of Consulting Corner. My name is Lauren Roberts, and I'm the Chief Agency Consultant here with Kite Technology Group. Today, I'm going to share with you a way to increase your efficiency when processing mail. Yes, unfortunately, we still get paper mail, right? So, we're going to talk about how we can create some efficiency in getting that mail distributed to your staff so they can easily attach it in Epic. In Epic, there's a feature known as unrouted attachments. From your home screen, you'll notice down at the bottom, there's a section called unrouted attachments. This is in your new and waiting space in the bottom of your screen. Now, if you don't see that, you of course can go over to your configuration and down to user options on the left-hand side. If you don't have access to this area, be sure to check with your admin because they may be able to set that up for you or may have to change this for you. You can go to Customize Home Base, and in this area, you'll see there are several different areas that you can display on your home screen, New and Waiting being one of those. If you click over on the New and Waiting section, you'll also be able to select those items that are actually listed down at the bottom of your screen in case you want to do a little bit of reorganization. So unrouted attachments is where you'll be able to see any scanned mail that has come into the agency, and it is sorted by user. So rather than your staff having to, retrieve their own mail, go to the scanner, scan it to a folder or a share file or even to their email, you can actually front end scan all of those documents very easily to each individual user. So before I show you how to actually process those scans, let's take a little bit of a look at how unrouted attachments actually works. So if I have unrouted attachments, like I said, I can click that link on my home screen, and that's going to take me right into this area. You'll notice at the top there are some radio buttons that identify who you're looking at because you can actually look at unrouted attachments for yourself. You can look for another employee, so you'll notice that there's this drop down box right here where you can select a different employee if you'd like. You can also sort by department, group. This is your security groups. So if you have an accounting security group or servicing staff, you can actually look at that group. And then of course there's a spot for recycled items because we know sometimes we might need to throw those things away. So there is a place where those items can be stored. Now, in this area, you'll see a list of any items that have been scanned to you. If you click on one of these items, you'll see a preview right here. Now notice this was just a little test document, so it's really tiny, but we can click over to one of these other items and see a preview of that document. Now, you just are going to see that first screen, the first page of this document initially, but of course, we could double click on this, open up this document and see a full view. Now, once we have that document open, we can see all of the pages that were actually scanned if there are more than one. Of course, you probably want to check those documents before you actually attach them because, technology is great when it works. Sometimes things don't scan as well. So if there's an issue with the scan or you're missing a page or something like that, you may need to drop that over in the recycle bin. You'll see down here at the bottom, there are a couple of options. You have a couple of pages. Hopefully you don't have more than one page of scans and you can stay on top of getting these things attached in Epic properly because these are just in a holding area, kind of like a suspense, so to speak. So this is where the documents will live until you actually assign them out to a specific client, account, policy, or activity. Of course, the good best practice there is to always attach to a workflow activity. Little spoiler there. So here, I want to show you some of the functions that you're going to have to do with those documents. So at the top of the screen, of course, you can click Actions, or you can right-click on that document. I personally am a right-clicker, so I will be right-clicking for this video today. In this area, you'll see that you have a few different options. Your first option, of course, is to attach the image. When you click on the Attach Image function, that's going to open up just a regular attach to window, just as if you were attaching something in your email, maybe with the Outlook add-in. So from here, of course, you would select things like the client. You're going to go look up that client. Let's just use good old Cromer Construction, right? And from here, it's going to allow you to select the client. Then, of course, you can select your activity or any other item that you're going to attach that to. Now, in this case, this document does actually have a description. I'm going to show you how you can do that in just a second. But typically, there's not going to be a description here unless you've already labeled this before it got to this specific screen. So here, of course, you're going to want to use your agency's naming conventions. Make sure you give your document a good description before you finish attaching that. And of course, same as always, you've got your folders or subfolders down at the bottom of the screen as well. So I'm going to click cancel on this one because I want to continue to use this document for a couple of other tests here. So we're going to click on yes. The next option that you have for actually attaching this is you can also drag and drop. So I am going to pull my tab out for Chroma Construction so that I can show you. You can also drag and drop from the unrouted attachments. So if I wanted, I could come over here to my activities and I could just click on that document and I can drag it right over to that activity. Once I drag it over to the activity, it's got all of the information pulled in for me. So just as if you were attaching a document from your desktop or a shared file, or from dragging and dropping from your email, this is going to work the same way. So it'll pull this document out of those unrouted attachments and attach it to the client, and wherever you drop that. Okay, so the next option that you have here, so that's how we're going to attach those documents. One more little trick for you here is you can also drag and drop into your unrouted attachment. So if I had an email that maybe I want to drag and drop over, but I'm not ready to quite attach it just yet, maybe I need to start a workflow activity or whatever the case is, you can actually drag and drop into your own unrouted attachments as well. Or if you are another user and you want to drop something over to another person, you can also drag and drop into other users' unrouted attachments. Just a great way to keep everything really living in Epic instead of, hanging it out in your email inbox flagged or whatever the case is until you have time to attach that. So I mentioned that there are some of these documents here that actually have descriptions. You'll notice these first two have a description already listed. Now, by default, any document that comes into your unrouted attachments as it's being scanned to you is not going to have a description. But if you right click or again, click actions, you can click on edit details. When you click edit details, you can go ahead and add a description of that document so that when you click that attach to function, or if you drag and drop it, it's going to have that description there for you. And it also gives you a little note here to see what the comments are as well. So if you wanted to make a note to someone, maybe you dragged and dropped it to someone else, just gives you a little bit of extra functionality there. All right, next option here is also going to be reassigned. So let's say, for example, I got this document and it wasn't supposed to come to my unrouted attachments. Now, I don't want to throw it away because we want to make sure it gets to the right person. So here you do have the option to click on reassign and search for whoever it is that should actually have that document. And then once we do that, it's going to move it over to that person's unrouted attachments and remove it from yours. That would also be a nice little way to use that edit description or the edit details. So you could say, hey, this is your document and here's what it is. Another function you have, I mentioned, yes, sometimes we need to throw things away. So let's say, for example, I got a bad scan or maybe a duplicate scan. That is when you would want to make sure that you recycle a document. You can't actually delete it completely. It will go over into a recycle bin. In addition to that, if you're curious how long things are going to stay in your recycle bin, you can go into Configure, over to Attachment, and in your scanned documents configuration here, there is an option to delete the recycled items older than X number of days. Out of the box, it's probably going to be 60 days, but if you do want to push that out a little further or make it shorter, whatever the case is, you can do that here. All right, and the last option here is going to be saved to downloads folder. So let's say, for example, you got a document scanned to you from the mail, your admin or whoever's sorting the mail out, scan that over. If you maybe need to work on that document before attaching it to the client's file, maybe it needs to be filled out, you need a signature, whatever the case is, you can save that to your downloads folder and then bring it back into unrouted or just drag and drop it over to the client's file. Now that you know how your unrouted attachments work, let's see how we would actually bring an unrouted attachment into your Epic system. Okay, so starting from your home screen, in order to set up your unrouted attachments procedure, you'll want to go over to procedures, no pun intended there. And once we get into procedures, we are going to go over to print front end barcodes. Now, this is where we're going to set everything up. There's really not a whole lot of pre-work to this process. You really just need to get your front end barcodes so that you can separate documents for each employee as well as separate the documents themselves. So we're going to start with the employee barcodes. Now, if you're starting this from scratch for the first time and you just want to print out barcodes for all of your staff, you can just click A to Z here in your locate, and that's going to pull up all of your employee codes. Here on the left-hand side, you've got a select function. You can select all, or you can click through and select individual users. So let's say, for example, you've been doing this for a little while and you've got a new user, you could just search for that one employee code, or if your front end scans, your front end barcodes wear out, you could come here and create new ones as well. Now, before you start printing these documents, it might be a good idea to order some pastel colored paper. I always find that it's nice to have a light yellow or maybe a light pink sheet to use for your separator codes because your barcodes pages can actually be reused. So all of these barcodes that I'm getting ready to show you today can be used over and over and over as long as the paper still works, as long as it's not falling apart. So to save a little bit of time in using this process, you may want to use colored sheets because it's a lot easier to see those in between the documents and pull those out when you're ready to reuse them. So once you have got your colored paper and you're ready to print, you've selected those folks that you want to choose from. I'm just going to pull this first person out of the list here. We're going to click on print down at the bottom of the screen, just so you can kind of see what these barcodes are going to look like. It's just going to show you at the top of the screen that employee's code and their name, and then it does have a specific barcode just for that employee. Once you have all of your employee barcodes printed out, you're going to want to go over to document separators. In the document separators area, you'll notice there's no employee code. There's just the number of copies down at the bottom of the screen. Now, depending on the volume of mail you get, you may want 50 sheets, you may want 100 sheets, you may only want 10 sheets. It's totally up to you. These are the sheets that are going to go in between your individual documents. So let's say you have a policy and you have an endorsement. The separator sheet is going to go in between each one of those items. So, of course, click on print when you're ready to print those out. And like I said, just print as many as you want. You'll notice that these do not have any specific identifying information. They are all going to be the same. So these are just going to go in between those documents. Once you've got all of your documents, you are going to want to place your employee code on the top. Then you can place the first document after that. Once you've placed your first piece of mail, you can then add a barcode that is your document separator and continue from there. So employee code on the top, then your first document, then your document separator. You do not have to put a document separator at the end of your stack, and you can actually put another employee after you have finished the first one. So let's say, for example, I have 2 documents, but Laura has 2 documents also. I can put my barcode on top, my employee code, my 2 documents, and the one separator sheet. Then I can put Laura's code and her document and her separator sheet. So that's how you're going to stack those up so that you can actually scan multiple documents to multiple people at one time. See how efficient this is actually going to be? It's going to save you so much time and your employees. Once you have got all of those ready to scan, you're going to take those documents to your scanner and you're going to need to scan them to a local storage on your computer. That could be a shared file, it could be OneDrive, it could be your desktop. Regardless of where that location is, you're going to want to make sure that that is stored somewhere and it's going to get scanned in just as one document. Yes, There are all of these little separator sheets, but we're going to see how that works in just a second. All right, now that we have scanned our document into our computer or whatever file location you want to put that in, we're going to go over to document management and import scans. Remember, we are in the procedures area of Epic. Once we click on import scans, you have two options here. Good old drag and drop as always. So if I want, I can click on the file that is over on my desktop and drag that over into this area, or I can click on browse to open up the file explorer and search for it that way. I'm just going to do the drag and drop because that's what we're also used to. So I'm going to drag this document from my computer over into this area. And down at the bottom of the screen, we're going to click on import. Now, by default, use barcodes is going to be checked automatically. So all we're going to need to do is click on import. Now, keep in mind, there is a different way to do front-end scanning in Epic. If you are on the desktop version of Epic itself, we are only going over today the browser version because everybody should be on the browser anyway. So once we have got our documents imported, we are going to be able to then see those over in the unrouted attachments. Now, sometimes it does take a few minutes for it to actually process through and show up. Like I said, you can already see that I have some documents that are already in here. You may need to close the screen and then go back to your home screen to refresh that. So I'm going to click on the close area there, and I'm going to click on unrouted attachments. Notice down at the bottom of the screen, you'll see when there are new documents, and we can click on that 5 new items. And then we can come in here and work through those documents as I showed you earlier. And again, you'll see it is still showing that it's taken it just a minute to get those in there. So again, be patient. You do have to wait a second just for it to process through. And especially if it's a larger stack of mail that you are actually processing, it's going to take it a little bit longer. So once you're all set, go ahead and process your mail. Keep that moving in the Epic system and enjoy this wonderful, efficient new trick. Happy front end scanning. Have a great day.